Alrighty. So, 1, 2, 3, looking good. That's what we like to see. Everything lighting up just the way it's supposed to. Hello world, how you doing today? It's Mayor and Kathleen here. We are getting the show ready, but as usual, we like to come and hang out with you a little bit beforehand. Marf is making some interesting noises. I don't know what he's doing, but we'll worry about that later. Yeah, we just thought we like to come and hang out, and that way it gives us a chance to also make sure everything's working. Sort of a win-win, if you will.
Absolutely.
So anything interesting happened this week? I haven't really talked to you this week.
No.
That sounds wonderful.
Sad.
No, I
That's
see.
sad. It's
the way
great
things have been going,
too.
that sounds like a nice little break. Did you get your hairs cut? I just realized.
Oh, me? Yeah, I have to get it, periodically
Looks good.
cut and foofed, and thank you. Actually, I was wondering if I look like a disembodied head because I'm wearing a black shirt because I was rushing.
Fortunately, you have the furniture behind you, so that helps a little bit. Oh, actually, I'm not even.
Head.
I should probably put myself on because I'm actually a disembodied voice right now because I only have you up. So just so we don't scare people, I'll bring myself on over too. See, I am really here. It's not just a voice.
Oh, look, I'm on the other side tonight.
Yeah, well, this is the one we used the other day. I thought I'd bring it out again just to play with something different.
Good.
Okay.
No, nothing really going on. Just busy working on the next show and the next show and the next show. And,
Well,
that's all
summer
has arrived.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm not complaining about the heat yet. After being cold for so long, I'm going to try to push off complaining about the heat.
That's right. It won't last too long. It'll be here and gone. I drove up last night on the highway in a torrential downpour. When I tell you torrential downpour, and I got up on a bridge, the lightning, it was like, as I was coming down, it was like the rain was hitting the asphalt, and the asphalt was so hot, it was creating steam. So we had this downpour, steam, cars everywhere. I'm like, oh.
All the drama.
All the drama and none of the liquor to go with it. I'm telling you. So I got home, I was just a little like, oh. Yeah, that was a rough one. But other than that, everything is sort of calm and copacetic.
That's
How
a good
about
thing.
you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. We did the trip down, for Father's Day, and it was the first time I'd stayed down in a while, so that all worked out fine. I knew it would. And we got to see, we were stalked by a buzzard. That was interesting. I took him out to do his little thing. Yeah, it started off at my parents' house. And then as we walked, he, I guess, didn't like the fact that we were so close to where he was, so he went to the next house. But of course, Murphy's routine in the morning is to walk circles around their house. So then he wanted to go past the buzzard. I'm like, no, I think we're going to go back the way we came.
They're big. They are huge.
And big and ugly. I know they serve a purpose, but woo. And then we lots of deer. And the deer get like here. And he's interested in the smells, but when he actually encounters the real deer, he makes believe they're not there because they're too big.
Jeez.
No.
Years ago,
he's a little dog, and they're way up here.
Oh my God. Years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, we went outside and we heard all this noise, and there was this horrendous smell. And actually, I hadn't seen the neighbor in a while, and I thought maybe the husband, you never know, it was like, where are the neighbors? Where'd they go? But it was actually a deer that had died in the backyard. And these buzzards were ginormous, and there had to be about 12 of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, you watch those old movies where the buzzards are hanging out. Yeah, you don't want to be slow moving around those suckers.
Yeah, well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, so I went and I showed my dad the picture, and he got kind of like, oh, what the heck does that mean? And I'm like, no, it's just wildlife.
And it is magic hour, Kathleen. Are you ready?
Ready? Okay. Yes, we actually seem to be working pretty good here. So I think we can actually rock and roll. And it looks like, just to share information, it looks like Periscope has finally figured out how to show us old comments. I'm like so excited.
Hey. Alrighty then. So send those comments in.
Absolutely.
So tonight we're going to be talking about, working remotely.
Have to do the show open.
Sorry.
So, hello, welcome everybody. So glad to have you here. This is the BA Zone Live. We're very excited to have you here, and we hope that you will follow, like, send us hearts, all that kind of good stuff. And also invite your friends, neighbors, family, whoever else you think might enjoy either the content or our stand-up act, whichever works. We're very flexible about the whole thing. My name is Kathleen Sinnott, and my co-host is...
Marianne Morrison. And tonight we're going to be talking about working from home or working remotely, which is sort of a double-edged sword, but it's really sort of more of a trident, because you got that left prong of positive aspects and then that right prong of challenges, and smack in the middle, there's you. So we're going to be giving you the tools and tips to balance the left and the right prong tonight. But before we do that, why don't we just show everybody where they can see us? Bring that nice little slide up.
We can totally do that. Why is your mic dropping when that happens now? All right, I'll figure that out later. Okay.
Well, there you go. You can find us on Twitter.
Maybe I should get that out of the way. That would be helpful.
There you go. It's our show. Anything that can go wrong will. It's all right. So it's you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and obviously you can find us on our website, thebazone.com. So, you know, if you feel like dropping us a comment or a question during the show, please do that. Or you can, go to the website if you feel shy and put something up there and let us know what you're thinking. And if you have any fun stories about working remotely. But so let's get started.
Sorry, everybody's also seeing the notification from the town that we have 2 water main breaks in town. Woohoo! See, we share all kinds of information here.
Yeah, so don't worry about hearing a flushing.
Where'd you go?
So, okay, so let's talk about first that left prong. Let's talk about the positive aspects first of working remotely. So obviously, if you're a manager or, anyone who's looking for talent, if you take folks that are working remotely, you're not limited. So you have access to talent all around the world. And that's a big win. There's no commute, except the commute you have to make from, your bedroom into wherever your office might be. It is more productive. It's a different environment initially, so it tends to be more productive. There's a little bit of an adjustment period. You can work laying down. You can work sitting up. You can work anywhere you want to. You can put whatever you want on your walls to motivate you. You can pick up the kids from school. You can throw in some laundry. You can start dinner at 5 o'clock instead of sitting in that rush hour traffic. And you can wear whatever you want or not, but make sure you block that webcam if it's a not situation. So you're basically free to be your freaky self. So those are the positive aspects of working from home. And I'm sure, Kathleen, you might have 1 or 2 up your sleeve that you might want to throw in at this point.
Yes, working from home is one of my favorite things, and she knows that.
She loves it.
So, here's some things that, a lot of people choose to forget who are anti-working from home. It's been proven that you are way more productive because you don't get 1,000 little interruptions of people stopping by your cube, or if heaven forbid you're the unlucky person whose office is outside the meeting rooms. You don't have all those people stopping to chat because they're waiting for the meeting room to empty. You're saving all kinds of time and money on your commute, which is also reducing your stress because, hey, more money and not sitting in traffic is less stress. You've got probably better equipment. I know I certainly have better equipment when I'm working from home than when I'm in the office. And the reality is, for all of the, stomping around that a lot of management does about, we have to have everybody here and everybody needs to be in the same room or we can't, collaborate. And, that's nonsense because most times now you are working with people who you will never meet across the ocean. And so what's the difference about whether you're at home doing that or you're doing it from the office, as long, of course, as you are doing everything professionally. So yes, I am very pro working remote, especially since I had a gig that I was hired for that they insisted I had to be there, and then they assigned me to a team that was overseas in Ireland. Now, don't get me wrong, I was very happy to listen to the Irish accent. I could listen to that all day, but it was really weird that I had to travel an hour and 20 minutes each way to talk to people who were never going to be in my office. So that's why she brought me into that, because she knew I would tell you that rant.
I know, it's like sort of Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, it's like I'm the straight man and I'm just sort of sending that stuff off out to her. But
that was right down across the plate.
That was right up her alley. That was a strike right down the middle there. And I'm a big proponent also of working from home. And as a former manager, I had no problem with having people work from home. So I think it's a great thing. So let's talk. Do you have some business to do, Kathleen, before I get into some of the challenges of working remotely? Is there any business up your sleeve before I continue?
There's always business up my sleeve. Okay, I just had to put myself back on because the dog started barking. Yes, so we want to invite you to come and join our mailing list. Why would you want to do that? Two basic reasons. One is that's where we keep you informed about what's coming up on the next show and that type of thing. Also, we treat the folks on our mailing list as our insiders. So you also are going to hear first about all of the new and exciting things that we're doing. So if you are interested in getting that information, feel free to go to the website, thebazone.com/mailing list, and you can sign up there. We don't ask for a lot of personal information. Really, it's just I think it's just an email address, name. I've kind of forgotten. I should go look at it again. And we will send you a thank you gift for signing up, and you can count on the fact that we will never sell or otherwise market your name and address and all that kind of good stuff, because we really just want to communicate with you. We have no interest in anybody else getting it, and we believe in karma, so no worries.
No worries there. But let's talk about some of those worries about working remotely from home and some of the challenges. So we're just going to go through a few of them tonight. So the biggest one for a lot of people is, and these are in no particular order of importance, by the way. A big one is that work-life balance. Sort of like the good news is you work from home, and the bad news is you work from home. That's kind of, you tend to work longer hours because, it's sort of easy. It's a mindset you're in. This will be a quick little thing. Let me just go on and take care of it. I'm not doing anything right now. And why would you overproduce? Sometimes we do that because it's in our own mind that we worry that people think we're sitting at home eating bonbons. So we have this thing that we have to tend to overproduce. But it is sort of like finding that work-life balance, because you can just start working on things, and if you're really interested in it, and most of the work we do, we're very interested and focused, time just flies, and all of a sudden, you're sitting there, it's 8 o'clock at night. But that can lead to burnout and stress as well. So some tips around trying to keep that work-life balance is sort of know when to stop working. So if you have to set a timer to do that, or some type of cue or some type of device that tells you to get up, take a break, or stop working at the end of the day, by all means do that, especially if you just are starting out working remotely. Make sure you make time, for the family and the friends, do your hobbies, get out, get a little exercise in there. You'll feel healthier and it'll make your work better too. So, at the end of the day, shut down that computer if you have to. And another thing with that work-life balance is you sort of have to not only disconnect your computer, but you have to disconnect your brain. You have to do something that signals you that this is the end of your work day, and now you're going home to do something, even though you already are home. So, sort of like there are, habits that authors have, like when they finish a book, that they'll treat themselves to something. So at the end of the day, maybe, okay, at 5 o'clock, I'm going to treat myself to something, and that signals the end of your day. And do something that refocuses your mind away from work, whether it's focusing on a hobby, family, friends, exercise, whatever. And that's part of that work-life balance. I know, Kathleen, you really are work. You have a bad work-life balance. Your life is work. So how do you de-stress, or how do you get away from that work?
Well,
because I know you're working all the time.
Well, yeah, but because I really love what I do. So it's the work itself is not really stressful. Timelines, other people sometimes, those can be frustrations points for me. But actually, for me, doing the work is a lot of the fun. I mean, that's why I do it. I'm one of the few lucky people I know in my world, who actually enjoys what they do and don't just see it as a daily grind. But that said, I mean, I do play. Sometimes I just kind of change gears a little bit. It's very rare my computer goes off, but I may switch from, maybe doing flows and, UIs if I've been spending the whole day doing that, and instead maybe, flip it over and do do some writing or, do some research, that kind of stuff. The other thing that lately I've been doing, and I have to be careful because this is the kind of thing that can really suck me in if I'm not super careful, but I've been playing Fortnite. So friends of mine online were playing, and I've been watching them, and I was like, all right, I've been pushing them off for a long time. I'm like, nope, that's it. And so I've been indulging in a little Fortnite too. That's a good stress reliever.
They just had a big thing on the news about how it's not labeled as an addiction as such, but it does do the same things to your brain as a lot of addictions do. So,
well, yeah, there's a lot of psychologists out there that are looking for a way that they can, write it off on medical forms. So they're making a big deal out of, game play, but just basically any kind of gaming being addicting. So is breathing. I mean, if you really stretch something, you can make anything an addiction. There is such a thing as just, stepping away and doing something else. But yeah, I know that's been making the mainstream press a lot lately. But the problem with Fortnite is the price of admission is not a deterrent because it's free.
There you go. There you go. And I myself have a tough time getting away from work too because I like to problem solve. So I find that my mind is always going. So, but I do meditate. So
okay. So see, I have to. She's just as bad as I am.
No.
Yes, your brain is always working on the problem. I mean, you do other things, but your brain is always working on the problems because we like the problems. We like puzzles.
We like the problems. There we go.
I just had to point out, it's not just me.
I know. And I do stay away from the games because I am super competitive with myself, so I wouldn't stop playing. I would become addicted, but that's another show. So, what's another challenge about working from home or remotely? I like to call this the me, myself, and I. So, hey, nobody's watching what I'm doing. And then you're like, so what am I doing? It's self-motivation, it's time management, and it's prioritizing your work day. So what I typically do is I focus on what's most important. I'm a morning person. Kathleen is more of a night person for sure. I am a night person. I stay up late, but I prefer to do my work early in the morning. And my play stuff late at night. So I try to get my most important tasks out of the way in the morning, the things that I really hate doing and don't want to do. So I don't wind up taking all these cute little things and doing those. So what I like to do is, you could take a little advice from sort of how the QA teams do it. If you have a lot of things to do or a lot of tasks to do, I create lists and I like to cross things off my list. And what I'll do is I'll look at the critical high items, much like a QA person would do. What's critical, what's high, and take care of that first. And then maybe look at some of the medium or lower priority type things that you need to get done. If you have a little bit of time, if you're waiting for a response from someone else, because working remotely, you're waiting for responses sometimes from other remote people who might be working in different time zones. And we'll get to that in a minute. But so a lot of times I'll plug in a couple of little things and get a couple of little things done, but don't ignore that big task, that thing you might be sort of procrastinating against. And that time management and getting self-motivated. Those are some of the me, myself, and I things. Another issue that we have or challenges is technology. That the connectivity, if you're in my area, I don't know, but at 3:00 when all those kids get out of school, my internet connectivity and speed drops tremendously. And there are other things. There are outages, there are computer issues where when you're in an office, you might call a help desk. And sometimes when you're working from home, you're the help desk. So you're the one who's, and if you're a consultant, you're buying your own equipment typically, and you're using your own stuff. If you work with a company, there's probably support out there. But again, it's not as easy as getting up and going and asking someone for help. So you have to be sort of a little independent. And things like conferencing apps, if you're on a conference call with the rest of your team, sometimes they can be unreliable too. So it's all the technology that got you. And we're going to go over some of the tools that'll help you, Kathleen, well, towards the end there. But there are some issues around technology. Kathleen, you got anything around technology that's an issue, that's a challenge when you're working remotely?
No, but I think you hit the big ones. Making sure you've got a good connection is important. You also want to make sure you have a backup plan because, so like I have, I guess I'm going to brag a little here, I've got an awesome internet connection. Yeah, if you can get Fios, go for it. Unfortunately, it's not available everywhere. But so from that standpoint, I don't have to worry until, like I had happened a few months ago, there was a company that was supposed to be trimming trees away from the power lines. And as they were moving their truck down the road, they forgot to lower the cherry picker and they ripped all the wires off my house. Not a great moment. I will say, though, just as an aside, the webcams paid for themselves because before the wires got pulled, the camera caught the truck pulling it down. I had all the proof in the world. Fortunately, I kept power. They missed that one. That was a higher line, but I lost my internet connection. And it was a couple of days before I got it back. So it just so happened that I did have a backup source. I have a little remote thing that I use sometimes when I'm on the road. A little pricey, but at least I was still able to keep working and I was still able to function. But so you do want to have a plan B just in case. But that's probably the big one because you need to be available and you need to be reliably available. So that's the kind of thing where, as soon as it happened, I went right away and, on my phone, I jumped on email and I let everybody on my team know that, got a problem here, I'm working on it, I'll have a solution in a little bit, in the meantime, I'll keep checking to be in touch. So be proactive about it. If something does happen, don't just go ahead and, try to figure it out without, letting them know what's going on, because if they need you and they reach out and they can't find you, you have a huge trust problem that starts to build, and you don't want to go there. That would be a bad thing.
Yeah, and as BAs, actually, you can always go old school. It's a good time to do interviews and call people on the phone and get that type of work done. Of course, you have to go to pen and paper with the flow, but then when you get back online, you could always, flow it out using a tool. So, you can always have that backup for storms or whatever that take things out. But another big one is time zones. So, we have team members all over the world today, not just in the United States, the different time zones, but literally, on the other side of the globe. And it can be a really tough time coordinating those conference calls so that you're not waking somebody up in the middle of the night or half the team is not even focused because they're staying up so late at night. So, you try to select the time that works for you and for your team members. So that everyone is included and everyone feels a part of it. So some of the tips around, working with, overseas teams, we have a lot of QA that might be overseas as well. Find some work hours that overlap. It's Australia, India might be a little difficult, but most of the time you can find an hour or two that overlaps and, designate that time as time that you're going to communicate as much as possible, either in team settings or whatever. That's sort of your communication time, your calm time. And make the most of that time. Send an email out containing all the questions ahead of time and ask everybody to participate so that when you get to that little chunk of time that you have, that it's really going to be productive. You could also try for your own personal a tip for you is to shorten your deadlines so that your deliverables are actually due in your mind. It's sort of like setting your alarm clock 15 minutes early. So when that alarm clock wakes you up, you still have 15 minutes. It's sort of like lying to yourself. So if you have a deliverable that's due like on July 1st, you might want to set your own personal deadline to be, 24 to 48 hours before that. So that, you give everyone enough time on the other side of the globe to get you the information that you need. And you could also sort of do what I like to call shift work. So you could work on your piece and then hand it off to the person who's working in 8 hours later, and let them handle their piece, and then it comes back to you. So that calls for a lot of trust and a lot of agreement ahead of time. But you can get those tasks completed and answered, because the worst thing is if you're in a different time zone and you can't call anybody and ask them for anything because they're already finished with their workday. So, you try to be a little flexible, and then you also try to use these other little tricks of the trade sort of to make sure you're accessible and you can get the information that you need. You can try recording meetings for those people who really can't attend, that are, just the time is just like 24 hours difference or something. Sometimes that works, and you have to realize you have to rely a lot more on written communication. But at least the upside of that is, because you're spending less time together, that those meetings tend to be very productive because everybody is very focused. So that is a big issue, the time zone differences in a lot of teams today. Kathleen, you have anything to add around time zone tips?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a challenge, and it does require a certain amount of flexibility on everybody's part, because I've worked with teams literally all over the world, and, while most of the teams, that are farthest remote, that maybe are the hardest time zones to link up with, will certainly, make the extra effort to join our time zone meetings. It's really important to also swing the other way and make sure that you work in a few meetings that are more easily accessible for them, because you don't want them to feel like they have to be working completely on your time zone. You have to be respectful of the fact that everybody's on the same team, and try as much as you can to share the pain points of being in different time zones as much as possible. So like for me, as Mary mentioned, I'm a night person, so that means I'm up a lot early to do meetings with folks overseas. But again, getting back to the whole remote thing, at least if I'm doing it from my own house, it doesn't matter if I'm not quite up to being presented to the world yet, as long as if it's a video call, just good enough for the video. And that does kind of help jumpstart my day a little bit. And it just so happens, hang on, let's see if I can bring this up. One sec. Pardon me, I'm just realizing that things are working again here is really my point. Let's see. Is this going to work? Please work. Woohoo! So, Amy has said, in her industry, which is litigation, legal, they leverage the time zones to provide more coverage, which is one of the big perks that most companies see in doing this remote thing. And it is one of the ways usually that if you are trying to bring it into your company, that you can sell the point, because again, that's the exact point. If you have people in different time zones and you are allowing people to work remote, then for your company, your day just got a whole lot longer, because while your employees may be working 9 to 5 wherever they are, but 9 to 5 shifts, so you end up with 20, 24 hours coverage depending on just how widespread your team is, which is definitely a big plus. And then she's had one more.
Hey, Amy.
So the
Hi,
East
Amy.
Coast.
How you doing?
Hi, Amy. The East Coast customers appreciate the West Coast coverage in the evenings, yes. And again, as a night person, this East Coast person likes working on West Coast time because it syncs better with her internal clock. So it can work in all directions. So thank you, Amy, for sharing your comments. And please, everybody else, feel free. I see you all out there, and we're glad you're watching, and no pressure. But if you do want to join in, don't be shy. We're warm and friendly here.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Definitely.
Okay, let's talk about another challenge about working remotely. So, if you're in the office, you might have, and this happens to me on a regular basis, project managers screaming literally in the cube next to you because they're trying to be heard over everyone else. So you have those type of interruptions and distractions. You do get interruptions and distractions at home. They're a different kind, and you can probably initially sort of hopefully get them nipped in the butt before they go farther. But you do have interruptions that break your concentration. For example, relatives dropping by unannounced. So, I always go back to a story about my dad. My dad owned a precision machine company. And anytime a phone call came in, he had to stop running a machine and come over and answer the phone. So you never called my father unless it was like an emergency or ask him what he wanted for dinner type of thing, right? My father retired, and all of a sudden it was like nobody else is doing anything either. So he used to just drop by, knock on the door. It's like, okay, hello, I'm working from home here. So we get a lot of that, especially when the folks get retired. We get a lot of people dropping by unannounced. So we have trees coming down. We have ambulances out there in the neighborhood. Who's gotten hurt. You got to run out there. You have all of the landscapers in the neighborhood. And then you've got, your spouse or your significant other. Honey, do you know where the keys are? Do you know where I put this? Do you know where I put that? And then if you have a dog like we do, we've got, my little Tinker, he's like constantly tapping your leg. Hello, hello, I'm here. Cookie, cookie, cookie kind of thing. And if you have kids, that just gets amplified exponentially, especially if you don't have that separate office where you can shut the door. Then the kids don't even understand why the door is shut and they're banging on it like crazy. So, conference calls and teleconference calls are always a challenge when you're working from home. And other distractions, I know somebody that I work with who prefers not to work from home because they are too easily distracted. They're better focused when they're in the office. If they're home, they're looking at and they're going, they don't have lawn boys. They're going, I got to get out there and mow that lawn. I got to, watch my favorite TV show. I got to clean up. So the distractions for them are just too much. So, but as far as those distractions, you can allow yourself some time to eat and to do something. It takes a little bit of discipline, but there is a lot of distractions out there. So some of those tips to kind of quiet that down just a little bit, especially when you first start working remotely, let people know that they need to call you or text you. Texting is better if they can, before they come over, and explain why that is, because you have a job to do. You have to work. If you can, make your office in a separate room. Or if it's, just put a little corner in the bedroom or somewhere where you can close the door is very helpful. And then you could always put cute little notes on the door, do not disturb in a meeting, be back in 20 minutes, a little paper clock for the kids to teach them how to tell time, be back in 20 minutes, a type of thing. And then when you're working from home, make it a thing not to take personal calls, unless it's an emergency. Figure out what works for you. Sometimes, because we have such flexibility when you work from home, obviously you have to be available for anybody who needs to access you. But as from a work perspective, and I've always said this, as long as the work is getting done, maybe you're someone who prefers to work from 6 in the morning till about 10 and then take a break. Years ago when you worked anywhere, you got a 15-minute break in the morning and a 15-minute break in the afternoon. So, it's all about time management, how you want to get your job done. Kathleen likes to work later at night. Sometimes I work later at night if I have to run out somewhere during the day for an hour or two. So it's all about, setting people's expectations as to when they can bother you, and actually, managing around the distractions in everyday life. Wouldn't you say that's true, Kathleen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some things that you can control more than others. Landscapers are not one of those. And I do have, an uncanny ability to have a, video conference start, not just any video conference, but one where I'm going to be the primary speaker, and that's when the landscaper decides to show up. Never fails. And of course, it's not just my landscaper, it's all the landscapers around the neighborhood too. So, right. Even if I try to schedule around, okay, I know my guy usually comes in this window, doesn't matter because somebody else is going to come up too. So that's all just part of the reality. But the more you can do to manage that, will also help, keep that professional level, because ideally, whoever you're dealing with should forget that you're working remote. It should just be that you're on, a meeting and you're doing what needs to be done, or you're answering their questions, or whatever. So It's possible. It can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. But even, you know, Amy says, yep, yeah, dogs putting their head on my knee and trying to distract me from working just by being cute and sweet and lovable. That's, you know, Mr. Murphy is certainly known for that when he's in the mood. These days he's more about, wait, the baby bunnies are out again, which is a whole other problem. But there's a lot. But the reality is, you know, even when you're in the office, it still happens. So, you know, again, right. I'm going to go right to Amy because it's like she knows our script. She points out that even when you're in the office, you know, people stop by your office to chat. So the reality is interruptions happen, whether you're working remote or you're working in the office. In my world, at least, it's a little easier to control some of them, mainly because I don't have random people walking in. They know better. So, and I just may believe I'm not home anyway, so that all works out really well. But you know, it's a balancing act, you know, wherever you are, and it's just a matter of figuring out what can work best for you, and then, you know, doing that, whether it's a sign on your door or letting everybody know if you come, you know, or call me during these hours, you'd better be bleeding, which was my mother's thing when she was working. Don't call me at work unless somebody's bleeding or losing a limb. So, you know, and like you told with your dad, you know, now she's the one who's most likely to call me in the middle of the workday to chat. It's like, what are we doing? So, and I remind her, and she's like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So it's all part of the fun. But, you know, it's like anything else. It is work, and it's going to come with good and bad. And so as long as you have the equipment, you are equipped to handle the equipment, you have enough control over your environment, you can make it work if it works for you. I don't know if you're going to get to it yet, but I mean, at some point we should talk about the fact that it doesn't work for everybody. Not all personality types can excel at working remote. I'm assuming that's on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. It is down there. And I had just given an example of someone we both know who, you know, is not going to work from home because it doesn't work for them.
I'll bet I know who that is too, but I won't guess.
You probably know there's more than one, but I know the one you're thinking. It's not that one, it's a different one. But you know, and part of that reason they don't want to work from home, some of it is isolation. You know, if you don't have a big family, if you're sort of single, or if you only have one other partner, you know, where you are in the office all the time, you know, you guys are going out to lunch, you know, there's a camaraderie. There's a lot of talking going on, of, you know, and getting to know people and chatting around the cubes and the coffee and everything. And when you initially work from home, you think, geez, this is great. It's so nice and quiet, you know, from a work perspective. And then you start to begin to miss going out to lunch with the coworkers and chatting around the cubes, or overhearing what's going on with the business. You know, you lose a lot of that type of information. And typically you spend more time with colleagues than your family. And I always tell the story of my boss. I used to go out to lunch every day with him. And one day his wife pulled up and said, I went out to lunch with my husband today. And they asked where his wife was, you know, because I'm the work wife and I was out all the time. So, you know, you kind of miss that, and you feel a little isolated. So you start to, you know, you never leave the house, and then you don't want to. And, you know, for some people that's great. You know, Kathleen, and I'm fairly content being at home as well, too. But again, you need a balance if you're that type of person who is not going to be able to handle that type of, you know, isolation. So, you know, some tips for that is make sure you get out, go out for lunch, take a break, go out for a walk, talk to a neighbor, you know, try working from a different location. Sometimes I go down to the public library, or you can go to a coffee house, you know, just so that you have that feeling of people around you. And, you know, you try to, you know, make some friends, not just the online ones that you have, you know, actually a face-to-face type of thing. You know, it doesn't work for everybody, but isolation can be a big problem initially, and not for you, Kathleen, I'm sure. I know her so well.
Yes, she does.
She's fine.
And I know, I love working from home. I have no problem being alone. It's all my happy place. Not that I don't love all of you, but I do find that I get more done. I can focus better and longer. You know, for me, a lot of the work that I do, I really need to do what they call, like, get in the flow. And that's where you're so focused on what you're doing and your brain is firing just the way you need it to, that you really do lose track of time, and you're just so focused. And sometimes you're able to create work that would take maybe days in a matter of hours just because you got into that perfect flow. And it's such a delicate thing and it's so easily broken. So that's why I really, really love when I get the opportunity to work from home, because I find it so much more efficient, especially for a lot of the serious project work that I'm doing. And Amy's husband clearly is the opposite of me, because he prefers going into the office and interacting with the people. Again, not that I don't like that, I just don't find it efficient to getting work done. So if I can pick and choose, going into the office a couple times a month and working from home the rest of the time, that's nirvana for me. But I'm weird and I'm the first to admit it. But since I've already interrupted, I do want to remind you that we are here to help you. And one of the ways that we do that is by you telling us what problems you're facing, what questions you have, that type of thing. And the place that you can let us know about that kind of stuff is thebazone.com, which is our website, which has a comment form. You can also reach out to us on Twitter. Or if you don't like that, we have all the other places. So you can come visit us wherever you like to go. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. I'm even starting to play a little bit over on Twitch. So if you're a Twitch person, my fellow gamers out there, it's expanding. So you can go and visit us there. The point being, don't be shy. Let us know what your questions, your challenges are, whether you're in the business already or you're looking to join us on the BA side of things, or maybe you're a project manager, whatever. Yes, we focus on business analysts, but anybody who's working in a business and trying to get their projects over the line and do their requirements and all that, we're here for you. So a lot of our topics come from your questions, so please don't be shy. Reach out, let us know what you need, and we will be happy to help you out. If you have a question that you need an immediate answer on, just let us know that however you contact us, and we will answer it in that same venue. And if you don't, if it's not an emergency and you can wait a little bit, then let us know that too, and then we will cover it on the next show. Okay? All right, I've distracted everybody enough.
Distraction. Okay, so some of the other challenges, and this challenge is sort of, it might be global, and might just be a little easier at home, and I sort of call this the side effects of working from home. I'm really close to the refrigerator here. So, it's not that you're hungry. It's that you're sort of into a rhythm. It goes two ways. Sometimes I literally forget to eat, which is not a lie. I forget to eat because I'm really focused, or I tend to hit that refrigerator a little more, and it's really close. So either you stock it with healthy stuff, or you can just you just got to get up and move a little bit more. So it's some of the side effects. Think about what you're doing. A lot of times work can stress you out, and or boredom, or you're doing a task that you really don't want to do but you have to do, and sometimes that makes us behave a little badly. So just be mindful of what you're doing. That's just a side effect, and that can happen in the office too. So I'll let it go at that. Another one too is what I like to call the 3 C's, and this is sort of the last one I'm going to talk about before I turn it over to Kathleen. But the 3 C's: communication, connection, and collaboration. It's sort of all about the way you acquire information changes a little bit when you're working from home. So we already talked about, the time zone differences and how that affects communication. But getting information when working from home sometimes requires just a little bit more effort on your part. In an office situation, a lot of the information that we get just comes from overhearing it. You're chatting, during breaks, or you're listening. On the upside, working from home makes it harder for that sort of negative groupthink to transmit, because you're not in the office and you're not listening to how bad this part of the business is, and getting caught up in all that negativity. So that's one of the upsides of working from home. But in general, we all know that communication requires effort. And so, you have to text someone or call someone or email or message them and wait for a response when you're working from home, as opposed to getting up and talking to someone. So, just some tips around communication, connection, and collaboration. Be open as possible, and accessible, as Kathleen had said. You want to respond to requests quickly, even if it's just to say that, give me 15 minutes and I'll get back to you. But you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to provide the information where you can, so that when you need some of those same people, they will respond to you. We're all dependent upon each other sort of when we're working from home. So it's a matter of building trust and dependability that you're going to be there. Also, you need to provide clear communication. So learn to create that and maintain it. It'll be really helpful in getting things accomplished when you're working remotely. And make sure you speak up and ask questions. There's nothing worse than not knowing and not asking. I mean, it's just, you have to be just a little more, put a little more emphasis on that and get that stuff done. And it helps to use a lot of visuals. Kathleen and I use a lot of visuals to communicate to people. It keeps them engaged as opposed to just run on paragraphs of information. So, as far as collaborating goes, we like to bring team members together to collaborate on a process or on a design. And it helps to have some kind of pictures for them to look at. It's a great way to move things along and engage people. You can also, if you're new to a company, or if you're a new consultant, the old lunch and learn sessions, we try to modify them. You don't want to call it lunch and learn, but it's sort of these let's get together and talk about a subject, sort of gets everyone on the same page. Gets everybody's juices flowing, and enables sort of this dissemination of information that we would have gotten if we were in an office setting. And it's also really important to communicate what you're doing, and if you're a manager, what the company is doing. So make sure that you at least provide weekly updates. You can assign a point person to sort of be that person who is going to get everybody together to update. If you don't have a manager, if you don't have a project manager, definitely try to appoint someone who's going to be that person that's going to say, hey, this is what's going on this week. This is what we're doing. What are you doing? What are you working on? Keeps everybody connected. You can have brainstorming sessions, the design sessions, business in general, if at all possible. If you do live closely enough, off-site get-togethers, for lunch or dinner, or just going out for, coffee or a drink or something helps. And if you can't do that, I was recently somewhere where they took a picture of our whole team and they took a picture of the other team, as simple as that, where you can put that picture, on your cube and you can refer and put a face to a name is really helpful. And, there's plenty of tools out there that you can store collaborative ideas and documentation so that everyone can access that. And that's where I'm now going to turn it over to Tool Time with Kathleen. And I'm sure she has some solutions to get a little more efficient with communication and collaboration and all kinds of things, because that's what she loves to do. So Kathleen, I don't know if you have any business you want to take care of before you go into Tool Time, but we have about 15 minutes. We're actually a little over again, as usual.
Are we? Of course. Okay, well, I'll zip through some, but I wish that wasn't used for a TV show, because I would love to use that, but I'm sure it's copyrighted to infinity and beyond. No pun intended.
What is that?
Tool Time.
Tool Time?
And yeah, so
yeah.
Tool Time was the TV show, and
that's true.
That guy was in Toy Story, which is why I went with To Infinity and Beyond. But anyway, he was one of the voices at one point. So first, yes, before we go into my list, Amy agrees that she gets a lot more done at home, and that you should always, 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 ask, because not knowing is always worse. And people will be like, oh, it's a dumb question, or I don't want to bother people. No, that's the whole point here. Whether you're in the office or you're working remote, you should always ask those questions. You should always reach out when you need to, and don't ever look at it as, like you're bothering people, because if you have questions, then you need to know. So one of Amy's tips, which I was going to mention, but Amy came up with it, so we will share it this way. As Mary was saying, there's a lot of different ways to communicate with people, and you kind of need to try different things to see what's going to work best for maybe an individual or your entire team. So in her case, what she does is she records short videos as sort of, show and tell rather than doing a long email, because she finds that that works really well for her team. The other nice thing about that is it kind of becomes a nice little resource for other people. Like as they join the team, you can kind of use it as part of the onboarding. If you save ones that, are typical questions that come up, are really good examples for people, you can kind of create a little library of those and have the new person go through those as kind of a quick, getting up to speed kind of thing. So thank you so much, Amy. That's all awesome stuff. And just because, since we're in this mode here, let's go whole hog, and I will remind you that we are here to help you. That's our whole purpose, and that is what we enjoy doing. So we just want to remind you that you can find us in all the usual places. We have our website, thebazone.com. We're also on Twitter and Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, so on and so forth. And the nice thing is we are the BA Zone in all of those places, so we should be relatively easy to find. So if you have questions, comments, if you are curious about something, don't be shy. Reach out, let us know, and we will be more than happy to either answer you directly if you did it quickly, or to cover it in a future show, because frankly, that's where we get most of our ideas from. So please don't be shy. We're counting on you to help us figure out what everybody needs and what was going to help the widest number of people. Okay, so since we are over, I'm just going to quickly run through some tools that you can think about, as a way to stay in contact with everybody on your remote team, or if you have a split team or whatever. By no means are these the only resources. I'm just going to run out through a few of them to kind of give you a idea. Maybe it'll spark something maybe you hadn't thought about, this particular type of thing, and then you can always go out there and find something else that will help your team, because there's all different price points from free to way expensive. Just one more from Amy here. Exactly, resource for new hires. So it was talking about, the fact that she did little videos instead of typing out War and Peace length emails. So see, I know. Just like we know each other, I know how Amy thinks too, because we have a lot of overlap in our worlds. So much so that actually, I think I told you, right, Mara, I'm going to be on her show. I'm very excited. Friday.
Yeah, should be great.
As a matter of fact, I will share that in an email just in case anybody, so if you join our mailing list, see, here we go. Boy, that worked out well, and I didn't even plan it. If you join our mailing list, you get all kinds of insider information about shows and what's coming down the pike, that kind of thing. And so also for the folks who are on the mailing list, I'm going to share a URL to Amy's show if you want to check it out Friday when I'm on and see whether I embarrass myself or not. Amy's really
you didn't
good.
even mention that to me, so you might want.
I did. I mentioned it to you when we first talked about it.
You didn't tell me it was going to be Friday.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Life. Okay, so I am going to quickly run through some typical tools that people use to help communicate with the remote team. The one I think everybody probably knows is Skype. Mainly because it's free. Also, it's a part of the Microsoft world, so a lot of businesses use it. They have paid versions of it, of course, like everything else with Microsoft is free, and then it moves on up. It's great as far as, it is, everybody knows it. You can do video on it, you can do chat on it, you can share files, all that kind of thing. And like I said, you can start for free. If your company doesn't maybe have it and you want to give it a try, you could try it with a small group, and then if it works out well, you can go to your company and see if they want to pay for it, and if not, then your small team can keep using it for free. I used that for a long time, but recently I got introduced to Zoom. Zoom is like my new favorite world. It also, its main focus is video chat. You can do screen sharing, not video chat, just video. But the nice thing about Zoom is it makes it really easy to have lots of people on the call at the same time, and you can see everybody. So what it does is it focuses on the active speaker, and then but you can still see in little boxes. There's different ways to set it up. You can do it as like a film strip along the bottom, where you can see different boxes. So you can see all the other people, and depending on how big the group, you could just leave it open, and then as people talk, the focus changes from one to the other. Or if you have a big group, or if you just want to have some control over it, you can have somebody raise their hand, and then the moderator can manually switch it over. So a lot of functionality, really good. The quality on it is amazing. I have yet to really run into any problems with it, which I cannot say about Skype. The video quality is great. It works on all kinds of devices, so it's well worth looking at. Also has free and paid and you get a lot out of the free plan. So if you are looking for this kind of thing and maybe you're frustrated with Skype, you may want to go check out Zoom. By the way, I should mention this going in it, but we are not sponsored by any of these people. None of these people have paid us to say any of these things. These are just the tools that we have used and that we have found useful. And like I said, there's all kinds of other ones out there. So if you just go in, if you not interested in Skype and you don't want to use Zoom for whatever reason, if you just go and search for video conferencing tools, you'll find a whole bunch. Another one that you're going to hear a lot if you're working remote is Slack. It's sort of the de facto standard at this point. It is a chat tool. You can also make phone calls on it. You can do groups. You can do private messaging. You can create like subthreads. Again, lots of functionality. You can share files. There's a cap on how many files you can share if you are using the paid. Sorry, no. That would be backwards. There's a cap on how many files you can share if you're on the free version. If you have the paid version, that's not a problem. Some people find it a little strange to start working with, but they have a very good tutorial for anybody like that. And again, that said, if it doesn't work, if this particular tool doesn't work for your team, you can always go and find another alternative. One other alternative that a lot of people don't realize still exists, but it is still out there, is Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts, actually I shouldn't leave that because that's got my friends' information on there. Sorry, friends. But Google Hangouts has been around for quite a while. It is very, very useful, functional, easy to use. And I've actually worked a number of times with people where we would just, if we were working on a project, we were on deadline, we would just all agree, okay, we would open up Slack at the start of our day, we would just leave it open. And that way, if somebody had a question or whatever, they could just throw it in there. And because everybody had it open, we were all monitoring it, we could just keep going, and it wasn't like we had to, everybody stop, okay, we have to have a meeting, we have to talk about this thing. We would just throw stuff in there as it came up, and it was a great way to, share snippets of code back and forth and that type of thing. So that's a really good tool. You can also do video on that if you like to. Another one to consider, let me bring this back up, is Discord is a newer one. Again, it is something that tends to be thought of just in gaming communities, but it actually works for anybody who wants to use it. There are different levels of service that you can get from it, but if you're looking for something different, maybe Slack doesn't work for you, you might want to check out Discord to see if that works better for you. One of the other things that I hear a lot from people is like, oh, well, we need to have a whiteboard session, or we need to work on a document. Well, of course, for the documents, hands down, you just go to Google Docs, which I thought of. We could have set it up with Mara and I, but the very cool thing about Google Docs is you can have, obviously, you can share it with a lot of people. It's free, which is great, but you can have multiple people working on the same document at the same time, and you can see what they're working on because a little thing comes up and shows you how they're, where they're editing and who it is and what changes they're making while you're making your changes. So if you are looking for collaborative tools and you don't have a big budget, or even if you do, just because the Google stuff is so cool, you definitely want to go and check that out. That said, if you're looking for something else, there are tons of whiteboard services that are out there that are specially built for remote teams. So you can fire one up, send out the URL, and just like if you were sitting in a meeting room, people could grab a marker and start working on the whiteboard and collaboratively making suggestions and moving things around and all that kind of stuff. So you definitely can do that type of experience. Working remote, it's not a problem, and it actually works out better, I find, than the situation some people do where they'll like have an office and kind of point a webcam at it, or they'll use one of the tools that's supposed to share the whiteboard, but it's still a passive situation. This is an interactive situation, and I think it works much better, and it's also generally easier to see than the camera or the third-party tool kind of things that you attach to a whiteboard. I'm going to just do one more here because we are way over time, but the other thing that I can't sell hard enough, and I know Mary's with me on this, and that is Trello. You can use Trello to do all kinds of wonderful and magical things, among which is sharing information amongst a team. So, whether it's, you and your team members and you want to set up some boards for that, or the bigger group, or maybe a subgroup, your own private stuff. So you can set up private stuff, you can set up shared stuff. You can put, text in there, images, documents, you name it, you can put it in there, make it easy to find, easy to store, easy to rearrange. In case you can't tell, we love Trello. We use it for everything. And I think Amy's on board with us with that. Right?
It's
See,
my
I told
favorite.
You. It is, I mean, hands down, like how often, you know, let me bring you back up here.
I mean, that thing all the time.
Right?
It's like stickies on crack. You know, you can move these little stickies all over and task. We set up our show with it. We you know, what we're going to work on. We love Trello. Yeah.
It's so funny because when I showed it to her, she acted like I'd been hiding it, you know, keeping it as a secret. I didn't realize I never mentioned it to her. It's wonderful. And there's third-party plugins. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but they even add more functionality to it. So yes, again, we are not getting paid. We are not sponsored by them, but we love Trello.
But if they want to, let us know, because you know what I mean.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with getting paid, right? We just love that tool. We use it all the time. So
I will just throw an alternative out there too, just in case you're anti-Trello for some reason. There are other tools out there that do similar things, slightly different ways. Maybe Airtable is one of them. So if you are, you know, not interested in Trello for whatever reason, I don't know, but it is definitely out there, and you can find all kinds of cool and wonderful things. So that is. The kind of thing, and actually I'm just going to do this real quick because I knew Amy was on board with the Trello. So she says Trello is easy to teach to new team members. Totally. And only because she's being kind here. She's looking forward to me being on her show. I'm looking forward to it too.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time.
Okay.
So that, in a very quick nutshell, are some handy tools that you can use that absolutely make it totally possible to do all of that kind of collaboration that people are used to doing one-on-one in an office across however many time zones you need to be. And it also gives you a trail, because now you can take screen caps of it, or you can save it down, so then you can have it to refer back to. In a lot of ways, it's better than being in the same office.
That's right. Now, why is all this important? I don't even know anymore. We've been on so long. No, seriously. Seriously. Why is it important? Because even though there's a ton of challenges, you may find out, once you start working remotely, you know, there are so many benefits to it. And there are so many benefits across the board, from saving expenses to more focused time to, you know, lower overhead from being in an office. So even despite all those challenges, we love working remotely. As a manager, I promote working remotely to anyone. It's a great idea. It gives you a far better work-life balance, you know, once you work out all the kinks. So that's all I'll say about that. But and I think that's all we have. Do you have anything to add before we wrap it up, Kathleen? Because we are way over. This is 2 weeks in a row now.
I know.
Because we like the subject matter.
We get passionate about these things, and clearly we need to go back to breaking them into slightly smaller groupings. But yeah, you know, hey, we're excited. I do have one more from Amy, and since she's so sweet about sharing things, let's bring that on up. So yeah, I forgot about that. That's another good one. Anaja is a free tool as well. So one more option for you by our friend of the show, Amy. Other than that, I think we need to let these nice people go, because we have really been prattling on here.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your busy day to spend it with us. And we'll hope to see you next week. Same time, same place, same channel.
Yes,
take care,
definitely.
Everybody.
Have a good week, folks.
So long.